Okay, well, the good news is I think it just started working. Okay. Okay, all right. I'm getting some pretty bad echo, so. All right, thank you. I'm getting some pretty bad feedback. Is that suitable for everyone? Okay. We have any different feedback?
We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order.
This thing catch up to us.
That was Frank. It was a lag from Frank.
I heard that twice tonight.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. First item will be roll call.
All right, Mr. Brown? Here. Mr. Fritz?
Present.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
And Mr. Meehan?
Here.
And we also have Eric Dirk, Jamie Livering, and Roy Pennington joining us by video chat.
Next item will be to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the agenda, absent, just breeze over item number 7, strategic planning. I don't think we have anything, did we, Chief? No. Anything from you on that? Okay.
Yes. He will not be able to join us tonight.
Okay. I'll move, place that motion on the table, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
No.
Aye.
All. Were there any, approve the previous minutes? Have we read those? There were some corrections sent out.
Correction.
Right, emailed some corrections out. You got those corrections, Ron?
Yeah, I got it over here. It was the issue of the attendance on here. Main modification.
Yeah, actually, that was gonna be my question is, I thought maybe it was terminology, because I heard you say video chat.
Yeah.
And then video comments. Okay, but the minutes basically are the same. I mean, those people participate, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And those corrections were stated in the email.
Thank you, Rod.
Are there any other additional corrections? If not, the minutes will stand approved as presented. Were there any public comments?
There were none via the email account that we recommended on the website.
So we've received no public comment. We'll move on to the officers' report, CFO report.
Okay, I think I've got a packet this time. It starts on page 6 with the sales tax receipts. As you can see, sales tax is already down a little bit this month, 14,725 versus last year for this month. In total, we're down about 5% for the year to date, 51,749. I looked at it, and most of that came from the sale of vehicles. So people weren't buying cars, I guess, back in January and February. Any questions on the sales tax?
Now, Jamie, explain to us that 5% is down from last year, correct?
That's down from, yes, from last year.
And last year, about 2/3 of the year, we were running on a partial tax, not the full half cent, is that correct?
Correct. It didn't start until July or August. I have to go look and make sure, but I think it
So
was
we're
July.
already, we're looking at a well below projection here that would be prudent for us to keep an eye on, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to the governor's press conference. I think it was yesterday. I don't know. Days all blend together right now, but and they were asking him about forecasts, what they thought sales tax was going to be, and they mentioned something like 18%. I don't know what that's based on. So, yeah, going forward, I'm sure sales tax will go down. On that note, we did get a stimulus payment on Friday for $82,477.24. And what that was our pro rata share of our Medicare billings for 2019. Out of that 30 billion that they went ahead and dispersed, that was our pro rata share. We didn't file anything, we didn't calculate anything, it just showed up. I got a notice Friday morning in my email and it was already in the bank. So what that is supposed to cover is decreased revenue, increased expenses such as PPE, treatment for possible or confirmed COVID-19 patients, and pay for uninsured patients. So one of the caveats on that stimulus is that we cannot balance bill for any COVID patients. So we're still waiting on more details on that, but basically if it had anything to do with COVID, we can only collect what the insurance pays and co-pays, nothing else. Any questions on that?
Are we pretty certain that those accounts are being properly tagged?
We are doing our best. Eric's been working really hard to get all that set up. And we're going to try to run some reports and make sure it gets all tagged and billed correctly. Now, keep in mind, we don't know if people are testing positive or not because we don't have that information. But if it's a possible COVID patient, that still qualifies.
And that's being done through the IDC 10 code? As part of the 10 code?
I'm going to discuss it in part of my report. I've got to give you a little more information.
Should be fine.
So Jake doesn't have to. That's okay with her.
Another thing that wasn't on the agenda, but last time we talked about our collection proposal we received, I had emailed that out to all of you guys. I did check with our new billing company, the EMSMC, and they had not worked with that company before, but they said they could provide us 3 proposals from their top producers and let you guys pick from that if you'd like to do that. She's already emailed me about that. She hasn't sent me the proposals yet because she wanted your okay before she did that. But if you guys approve of that, I'll have her send us those. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Is this the second time we've bid this?
I think we did rebid it and only got one.
Oh, okay. And
It
this
was
is on
put
the
out-
second time, right?
We put it out for bid. We only got one response, and that was Viking Collections. So, I mean, it's really up to you guys what you guys want to do with that. It was tabled last board meeting. We don't have it on the agenda for you guys to vote on, but if you want me to get those proposals, I need to let her know.
So, Mr. Chairman, just as a clarification, did we bid it the second time or just once?
We just bid it one
We've only bid it
time,
once. Mhm.
but even the people that you reached out to didn't bid either.
No. I'll let you guys think about that. We have some time because our billing contract won't change until July 1st. And then it'll be at least 90 days before we have anything that will need to go to collections after that change. because up until July 1st, they'll all be going to the current company.
And they start fresh.
Correct. On that same note, billing contract, I emailed all of you guys a copy of the contract today. In the past, we've had the chairman sign that. I emailed that to Nick for his signature. If you guys have any questions on that, let me know. Eric and I have both looked at it, and we've had Matthew Cognier from PWW look at it as well and go over it, and answered all our questions and made the changes. And I noted in that email there were several sections just for you guys to be aware of. There's nothing wrong with the sections. I just wanted you guys to be aware of what was in the contract. Any questions? You guys probably haven't had time to even look at that. I think I sent it about 4 this afternoon. So, okay, back to the packet. Pages 7 and 8, Mr. Meehan had asked about the assets pledged at the bank for our deposits. This integrated pledge report, that's the report showing the securities that are pledged against our bank balances. So as of 3/31, this is what we had in the bank and this is what was pledged against it.
And at this particular printout, we were good on a $500,000 side up on the plus side, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
This is something anybody wants to look at this. This comes out monthly, you can pull it in. You can get it pulled anytime you want.
Page 9 is the bank balances as of the 9th versus March 19th. And the charts there on what our balances are. Anybody have any questions on any of that?
Jim, Jamie, we've got 4 different accounts at Central Bank. And
Correct.
of course, I'm sorry. We got 4 different accounts at Central Bank, right? And
Correct.
I mean, on page 9, of course, we have the main one that we operate out of, but the other ones, I know that they have a dormant type fee to that if some transactions aren't done. So is that still?
We don't get any fees. We don't have any fees.
There's no dormant fees that are about to come about on these accounts. Okay,
No.
thank you.
We collect interest every month, and our contract is we don't have any fees.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Page 10 is the cash reserve analysis. Not much different than last board meeting. It's up just slightly, about 8 days. Pages 12, 13, and 14 and 15 are the checking account register. Anybody have any questions on any of those? And that 82,000 you won't see on here because we got that on the 10th. So you'll see it that next board meeting. Pages 16 through 18 is the credit card statement. Did anybody have any questions on any of that?
Mr. Chair, help me remember, Mrs. Ringling, the names of the staff that's using the credit cards. They have cards in their own name, is that correct?
Yes, yes. Everybody has their own card, yes.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions on any of the charges? Page 19 is the current bills. And behind that 20 through 24 are the details. Any questions on any of those bills? You'll see our medical supplies are up quite a bit, just stocking up for just in case and getting additional PPE MEM is the new work comp company. That's the down payment. And then we'll be paying monthly after this. Mike Keith Insurance, that was the insurance on the new unit 5. And then you'll see the Shelby's bill for that new engine. And they did give us, I think, about a $900 discount on that. Get down to that. Yeah, it was supposed to be about $9,000, and they charged us $8,100. That's on page 22. 8103 is what they charged us.
This is Wolverine on page 20. Don's truck towing for a ambulance stuck out of the mud. Where was it stuck in the mud?
At a patient's. They were on a call at a patient's.
Did we get him to the, where we were taking them okay? Or how
Yeah,
was
I think
that?
they got stuck coming in to get him.
Okay,
Yeah.
I say him. I don't know if it was a him or her getting to get the patient.
so there was a delay, but it wasn't an issue for the delay.
I don't believe so. Eric, do you have anything on that?
No, it did not cause any significant delays for the patient, so.
And unlocked toolbox,
That actually is not our bill. That's been deleted, so that will not get paid. We did have some work done by City Safe and Lock, but the bill they sent us was not ours.
That's the one.
Yeah, we end up with Pettis County Highway Department, and the bill that we might be having coming probably went to them, so.
Yeah,
That has,
I think they. So that's been deleted, actually. That's not in there anymore.
not paid.
So that, yeah, so the total will actually be less that.
and on page 23, under West Bank, Medic 8 and Medic 9, I'm not used to seeing those broke out like that. What was that for?
20, I'm sorry, I lost you. Medic 8, WEX.
That's,
Yeah, for
Yeah,
West Bank,
Yeah, that's the fuel. Those are always broke out because that's Windsor units.
Windsor Ambulance District.
oh, those are out of Windsor. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I break those out every month. So the total on that should be 196,826.34 after we reduce it for that City Safe and Lock.
196.
826.34 if I did my math right.
I didn't see that, had not been pulled out of there.
I just deleted it.
Yeah.
Yes, 196,826.34. I believe. Yes.
Are there any? Motion to approve payment of the bill.
I'll move that motion for the board in the amount of $196,826.84.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, Chief's report.
All right. Pretty short report. I think phone's grown out of both ears and multiple computers, and it's been a lot of meetings this week. So my written report is pretty short here. Station 1, the generator masonry update, got the wall painted, all the bricks put in. Ryan and I knocked the bulk of the window out, had a little bit extra, but got the window for the masons to come in and get that all taken care of. We painted the interior wall. I painted the alley. The alley needs a little makeover out there, so we'll probably end up having rent not a sandblaster, but a sprayer, blow some of that loose paint off there. The mason, looked at it, at some of the cracks that we were concerned with in the past, and they said those are normal building settling cracks. None of them are horizontal. They're all vertical, and basically they expand and contract as the seasons go. So we'll get some of the old paint off there, fill those with caulk, and then just paint the entire alley wall at some point. So we didn't even mess with the exterior of it. We did do the interior because the switch has been installed over the top of that, or at least the switch housing. Brian, I don't know if you talked to them about how far along they are on that, but they've got the switch housing and all the conduit ran over to the side of the building where the generator is going to be placed. And I believe the company has picked up the generator and it's just waiting at this point. So, let's see, Station 2, there's no work currently in progress. However, what's not in my report here is decontamination procedures. Just, I know this is basically just an interest of how we're doing things here. Station 2 is set up. For those of you who haven't been in there, you've got the main crew quarters and report area and bedrooms and so forth. And then there's what I would call a public bathroom that's kind of attached to the bay, between the bay and the crew quarters. The nice thing about that is basically any unit that gets that needs decontamination, whether it be just minor or major decontamination, can pull right up to it. That bathroom has a shower in it, a big walk-in shower. There is adjacent to that is our storm shelter room, which has our washer and dryer in it. We worked out an entire written procedure, decontamination procedure about clothes are bagged and they bring a change of clothes with them to work. And we've spent most of the last 2 weeks developing policy after policy, just in preparation for any sort of infectious disease, but obviously specifically for COVID right now.
Could you go through the changing of clothes things in detail and explain to the board what you're talking about?
Essentially, one of the problems with PPE acquisition right now is gowns, and that's not us, that's a nationwide issue. The other thing is gowns are not what I would call EMS friendly by any stretch of the imagination. Most of those gowns are very thin plastic, and I have enough things on me right now, I'd rip it in about 2 minutes. So not only can we not get them, but they're not very good when we do get them. So given that fact, if we have an aerosolized or treatment like a breathing treatment or somebody coughing forcefully, if we have stuff floating around in the air, we're protected with a mask and goggles and a face shield if we have one of those. But our clothes and the rest of us isn't protected. So we have to have a way to decontaminate ourselves. That is done. We've worked out a pretty good policy with Bothwell. We're still working out some kinks as far as getting patients into the ER without us going in, which limits our exposure, limits their exposure, limits us from what's called viral shedding, which is just what it sounds like. It's stuff falling off your clothes. So we try not to go in the ER. We try to go in there as little as possible. But nonetheless, we're going to take this stuff out of there with us. So we go directly to Station 2. We doff any PPE, take off any PPE we have. The battalion chiefs can take out their changes of clothes, which they bring with them to work. Some of them, I think, keep them on the truck, but either way, we can get their clothes out there. They can remove their clothes, bag them, put them in a designated area, and we've got it all mapped out exactly where things go. They're put into a wash. They shower, decontaminate. They put on fresh clothes as the truck is being decontaminated amongst that process as well. So they decon the truck, then they decon themselves, and they're back in service.
And then the same thing occurs, you want that to occur when they come on shift and when they leave shift, correct?
The decon doesn't have to happen because the truck should already be clean.
What about the change of
The clothes, we've encouraged staff to not bring, you can wear clean clothes into work, but don't wear your dirty ones home. So clean them here. We're still looking at some prices on some washers and dryers. I know you want to probably say something about that. We do have space for them downstairs in the room where the sump pump, we've got hot water, we've got a drain, we've got everything we need to run an extra set of washer and dryer down there if the board so chooses to do that option, which would be very helpful because we've got 4, 8, as many as 10 to 12 people that might need to wash clothes across the street, depending on what our response would be. So that would help out a great deal. However, sometimes low-tech solutions are the best ones. We were looking at some fogging machines. I know I spoke to the board last meeting about very, very hard, if not impossible to find, not to mention expensive. The chemicals for them are also very hard to find. Everything related to any cleaning or personal protective equipment, as anybody who's watching the news knows, is just next to impossible to find. It's almost a luck type situation. What we found through Dr. Gustafson actually recommended I get contact another EMS agency and gave us a helpful, very helpful tip on what could be used as a fogger type sprayer. I myself used to paint back in Parker's Manufacturing and painted trailers all day long. And you use cup guns and you use high pressure sprayers. Well, they make low pressure sprayers for automotives. It looks expensive, it's $20. The chemicals that go in it are very cheap. We can dilute them. They're safe for our equipment. The chemicals that we use are safe for our equipment, our people, as long as they're wearing a mask. So essentially, when they're doing that procedure at station 2, they'll have one of these guns available to do the cab, the front of the truck, the patient compartment of the truck, and also the area in which they doff their clothes in. So we can just kind of spray it all down. And if you've ever used one of those, it sprays a very, very, very fine mist, basically a fog. You let that dry, you let it air dry for about 10 minutes and you're good to go. So it speeds up our decontamination time. Whereas, you know, that I forget what it's called, the deionizing, it creates ozone. The scrubber, the air scrubber, for lack of a technical term for it, takes about an hour to run. The doors have to be shut, so the trucks have service for an hour. This is almost instantaneous, and it gets in all the little nooks and crannies that you can't get to with a rag. So low-tech solution to a pretty simple problem. So we went out and bought a few of those. We got one at each station, and then we got one or two extra smaller ones for actually if somebody has gross contaminants on them, you can actually spray them down. And so far, it works really well. So we've got air compressors at every station, so no problems there. I like it. We'll probably keep doing it that way. I don't know if we need to look for foggers at this point. So nice tip we got from Gus there. And now anybody who watches this meeting is going to know, but I've already got what we need, so they can go forward them all they want. But they're, like I said, they're relatively inexpensive, and all we're running through them is basically a cleaning agent. So the guns clean themselves, unlike a paint gun that has to be cleaned with volatile chemicals, methyl ethyl ketone, things like that. We don't have to have anything like that laying around the station. Just safe cleaning chemicals. So really happy about that. However, we did find some fairly inexpensive UV lights, supposed to be here next week. Anything that anybody tells me is going to be here next week is taken with a grain of salt right now. So my hope is they will be here by next week, and we've got one of those for each station, as well as yes, one for each 3 stations. Of course, we're still doing screening. No issues with staff. We're fully staffed. We don't have anybody out on sick leave right now. Dispatch, EMD, their questions, their screening questions are going well, as well as our response with fire and everything. So the task force, again, I think everybody's getting those briefings on their Nixle. We're doing those every Friday. And then Bothwell has cut their COVID response meetings to Monday, Wednesday, Friday right now. And I gave everybody a handout. This is from the Missouri Hospital Association. And it's a statewide thing. It's not our hospital, but it kind of gives you an idea. Everybody's seen those curves, you know, on the news as far as flattening the curve, ventilator availabilities, bed availabilities. Kind of gives you an idea, of snapshot of where the Missouri Hospital Association is in their preparedness for any kind of COVID numbers there are. And I can't speak to the COVID numbers today because obviously they change every day, but it's getting fairly significant. And I know some information should have been released by now, but I'm hesitant to say it in this meeting because I don't know if the health department has, as far as Pettis County cases. But no big explosion of them yet, but there is some news that if it hasn't came out, it will be shortly. We are also working the task force, just from my point of view on the task force. I've been working with Tricia Ruda at the EMA. We're looking at kind of beefing up the logistics section of the incident command system, which sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo, but essentially what logistics does is they take care of all the people that are taking care of all the people. So you're looking at supplies, you're looking at, I think I might have mentioned to the board that some of the paramedics and EMTs in some of these hotspot areas were actually sleeping in their cars because they didn't want to take home their families. So this is something that it's a good place for volunteers to work. A lot of the EMT hotels have been commandeered to keep hospital workers and get them rehab. It's for rehabilitation primarily. And not to mention food and things like that, necessities for the actual rescuers, because we still got to sleep and we still got to eat too. So that's a logistics section that I'm going to do a little research on with Tricia Reuter with EMA and see what we come up with there. Let's see. Education, we've got a pandemic response protocol in place that gives us a scoring method basically to say, this is a very sick patient, it needs immediate attention and medical control, needs to be contacted. Or this is a sick patient that still needs to be transported, may or may not be COVID related. The third is going to be, you're probably got a little signs or symptoms, maybe the sniffles. We're going to let those patients make the decision to go see their doctor rather than go to the ER. And then the fourth is going to be ones that we give out informational pamphlets to with really no complaint, just basically concerns about the COVID crisis we're having right now. So kind of, it's basically a triage tool that our crews are using and will use more so should the volume increase dramatically. Right now, it's just kind of a way for us to keep track of what kind of patients we're seeing. On one other note, and then I wanted to address what Jamie was talking about, public CPR. I just, as a matter of public service, since this is a recorded meeting, layperson CPR has really focused recently on compressions only CPR, and there's a couple benefits to that. Every time you stop compressions to get a breath, you decrease the effectiveness. You have to start over and get a good 15 to 20 more compressions before you build up that pressure to start perfusing the heart and the brain. So if you just do continuous compressions, they found you actually have better survivability. And also you have a lot more likelihood of the public, especially during a pandemic, to want to assist because they don't have to blow into a patient's mouth or anything like that. And there's other risks involved with aspiration and all kinds of other things. So I just want to put that out there. The only bad CPR is no CPR, but if you do it, just do compressions on it as a matter of public safety right now. And that's a good idea with or without pandemic as far as AHA is concerned. The other issue that was asked about, what was that? That was the, I said I would address it and you were asking Jamie about it. That down somewhere, I'll come back to it.
Eric,
Supplies. Yeah.
Abortion drug.
it was tracking the COVID
Yes,
patients or possible COVID patients.
External hard drive there. Thank you, Jamie. What I've spent the last probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, seems like months on, is going through our software and updating it to provide for questions that we can ask the crews. And these are going to be questions that not only screen the patients, but that will be searchable and quantifiable in a monthly report, weekly, or even daily report as to how many potential COVID patients we've seen. But it will also track our crew's response to it in what kind of PPE they wore, when it was put on, was there any actual exposure, meaning even if you had PPE on, did you get something on you? Basically, it tracks everything you would want to track in a pandemic. So the nice thing about our software that we use is now all of those answers are searchable. So I'll be able to quantify that, which will help track any of these positive or suspected positive COVID patients. So we'll know at the end of the next month, at the end of April, or even at the end of this week, if you want an ad hoc report, we'll know exactly how many patients we've either suspected, treated as if they had it, or actually had the disease. So that is a very, very helpful tool when it comes to reimbursement. And it's just a very helpful tool for us to know what kind of risk we're facing, how much PPE we're going to have to look at getting supplies reinforced, how far out. Right now, just FYI, with the new supplies we got in today, in fact, It's looking like we're almost a month out on some PPE, which is great. So we're in a pretty good spot there, except for the gowns. We don't have gowns, and we're working on some options for that. But again, it's kind of like they'll be here next week. So
I just want to go back and review for the entire board, that they understand that any patient that tests positive for COVID, that we cannot bill in excess or bill the actual insurance payment in excess of any actual fees. I just want to be clear about that. So there's going to be some billing that is going to be adjusted. All right?
beyond what the insurance pays.
Correct. Correct. So we need to be very cautious about these items, because this is a mandate from the federal government that we're required to be attentive to. And it's something we don't want to screw up. So I just want to make sure that we get a tracking system that allows us to know those patients that we touch. I think it's important. So that's all I have on that item. Returning to the washer and dryer, if I may, Chief.
Sure, I just had one other thing to say about PPE. If you go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Let's finish on that PPE.
Okay, I just wanted to say publicly, again, thank all the members of the public that have helped supported healthcare in general, not just EMS, but all of our responders, fire, law enforcement, us, the hospital. We've got a lot of people out there making the cloth masks, which are imperfect, but they are better than nothing. We've got several companies working on that locally, or a lot of individuals, a lot of churches. There's just a lot of people out there in the community. I wanted to say publicly to thank those people for their efforts. That means a lot to us to know that we've got their support when everybody's really hurting for this. So wanted to throw that out there. And finally, vehicles. I don't have any new information this time, so I'll waive that rest of that to you. Let's see if you have any questions. That's it.
Just to return to the washer and dryer, I guesstimate anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 set up downstairs where those could remain here. And I know the ones over at headquarters are getting quite a bit of mileage on them. So if it comes to the point we're not using these here after this COVID crisis and outbreak ceases, to need the existence of these here, we could move them over to headquarters. Because they're getting a lot of mileage over there. There's a lot of stuff that gets washed. So, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that the chief has that latitude, and we may see that come through on a credit card below or wherever you may decide to purchase. So,
Are there any questions?
I know that's a lot. It's been busy. Very busy.
thanks for keeping it simple, Chief, and I thank you. I know that you've been meeting to death, and thanks for pulling everything out and making PCAD operate as we expected you would. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Medical director's report. Dr. Guess is not available this evening.
He's actually doing COVID training.
We'll move on to unfinished business. We have no issues, so we'll go to new business. And we have no new business. Under announcements, Mr. Buckley was out of town working with FEMA, so he's not available for his appointment to the board. As soon as he gets back to town, we will make that appointment. And board officer elections, we'll just postpone those until after the June election. With that being said, we'll take a short recess before we go into closed session.
You make me want to put mine on.
I got called.
Well, and that's the same here. I've got a residual smoker's cough, and I'll do that every once in a while, plus my allergies. So, and this is for the protection of you folks. It's not, I'm not worried about you guys.
Ask if we're still recording. I don't know. Are we still recording? Not that I have anything super secret to say.
Eric, does our people have plenty of masks?
Plenty of what?
Mask?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a procedure to reuse if possible, the N95. And we just got a big order in of the actual surgical mask as well. So, yeah, we are good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because I know Cheryl and Tara's been making cloth masks. So,
That's great.
yeah,
Tell her to say one for me, Mike.
okay.
Tell her hello.
I did forget to mention that some of you might have heard of the big recall that was on some of these masks from China that were falling apart and so forth. They were originally part of the surplus that was sent out to different departments. We did not get any of those, thankfully, so we got the good stuff. Happy about that.
Chief, you, just a question. This is your deal, but in this ordeal where you've seen yourself just have to rise to the occasion with grabbing some stuff out there on the market, like you just grab it. Has Sharice been real good at taking that load off of your shoulders? I know the answer because I've seen it happen.
If I were to sing her praises, it would take up this whole meeting.
She knows exactly how many of these. Yeah, exactly.
There's several people, the entire staff has been wonderful. Sharice, our supply, amazing. Jacob Wade, our infection control officer, has been staying on top of this. All three of the battalion chiefs have just been going way above and beyond. If they were choreographers before, they are, I don't even know what's above a choreographer, but it's artistry.
Being recorded right now.
Yes.
That's okay. I'm not embarrassed to say it, but we're not at the finish line yet, but yes, I told them they'll be it.
And another thing to keep in mind on that billing stuff is most insurance companies have changed their policies that they're covering everything to do with COVID-19 with no deductibles or copays. A lot of them are, not all of them, but a lot of them are. So,
And that would benefit who, Jamie?
well, the more that we get from the insurance company, the less we bill patients.
Correct.
We'll collect more that way. More of the allowed amount anyways.
We'll bring the meeting back to in session and we'll go into closed session. I'll take a motion, go into closed session pursuant to RSMo 610.021, sections 1, 3, 8, 9, and 14.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second,
All in favor, roll call.
Mr. Brown? Yes. Mr. Fritz?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
yes.
And Mr. Meany?
Yes.
Now ending the